So today they asked me to talk a bit about the economic sustainability of beef production. And I will split the presentation into 4 parts basically. So I will first discuss sustainability, what it is. Sustainability is a buzzword. Everyone is talking about sustainability, but it's really not an easy concept. To really declare that you are sustainable is basically impossible. Then we will talk about profit theory and how it fits into economic sustainability. Then I will take a look at a market where we are. So that's the place where we should be sustainable, and it's not always easy. And then the last part is profit in practice. So what can we do to be economic sustainable? All right, so the concept of sustainability was coined many years ago, and people started to talk about sustainability, and you are sustainable when you basically do not take more than what you need. Okay, but what do you need? And then they start to say, but all right, you can take whatever you need as long as you do not hurt future generations. In Afrikaans praat ons van rentmeesterskap. Jy moet dit oppas wat jy het op so 'n manier laat die toekomstige generasies ook nog voordeel daaruit kan put. Maar hoe meet ons dit? En as dit swaar gaan op 'n plaas, is dit baie maklik om oor te bewy. Pas jy dan op wat jy moet oppas vir die toekomstige generasies? So then later on they started to say, but sustainability, and it all started with the environment, is not only about the environment. It's also about the people. We cannot only protect the environment and forget about the people around us. And if you talk about people and you have to care for people, then the economy became quite important as well, as there must be money to basically sustain livelihoods. And then they coined the term the triple bottom line, or the 3 pillars of sustainability. And they say you can only claim that you are sustainable if you are economically sustainable, society, as well as environmentally sustainable. So you will have to look after your money, the people, as well as the environment. So this is a lot of things. If you Google sustainability, that you will find on the internet, basically definitions. The first one says sustainability is the ability to continuously maintain or support the process over time. Continuously over time means forever. What do we do to ensure that? It's quite a long time. Second one is, you are sustainable when you can fulfill the needs of the current generation without compromising the needs of future generations. That we know, but how do we do it? To be sustainable, we must reduce society's use of the Earth's natural resources. Now, that's basically impossible as society is growing. People are getting more and more. How do we reduce the impact on Earth's natural resources if we have to produce more food? You can only be sustainable if you are environmentally, socially, and economically sustainable. The problem is the last one. We have found that it is nearly impossible to improve all 3 pillars of sustainability. When you improve one or both of the others usually deteriorates. The thing is, if you really care for your farm and the environment of it, then you must stock less animals than the grazing capacity. But what will the influence be on your financial position? If you really care for the people around you and you increase wages because you want them to have a better life, it will have a negative effect on your financial position, on your economic position. If you want to make more money, put more animals on the field, you are going to let a natural grazing deteriorate over time because your stocking rate is too high. But we have to make a profit. And as times go on, we have to make more profit. And that's the thing. We all know how the economy looks like. We have to make more money to sustain businesses. So how do you increase profit? It's quite easy. You have to increase revenue, your income. But in order to do that, you have to increase production. Now, if you increase production, you increase input use. If you increase input use, you increase cost. So the question is, can you increase profit? Or to increase profit, you must increase input use. That is not good for the environment. And you have to increase cost, and you are not usually in a position to do that. So the question is, how do we do it? The thing is that increased profit, does it equate economic sustainability? So if you're making more profit, does it mean that you are economically sustainable forever? And if you increase profit, what will the effect be on the environment if you use more natural resources to do it? So if we look at economic sustainability only, they say it's practices that support a business's long-term economic development while considering the environmental and social impacts of its activities. If you look at that definition, the important part is economic development does not equate financial gain. To wring short-term profits does not mean you will be economically sustainable for decades to come. It's two different concepts. Long-term sustainability is about increased productivity. To get more from what we currently have, or to get the same but use less. You have to increase productivity, and how do you do that? And then we have to maximize profit or minimize loss. But the question then is, what is profit if we say that financial gain is not usually or not always the same as economic sustainability? So let's talk about profit. They say remind people that profit is the difference between revenue and expenses. That makes you look smart. So what is profit? The difference between revenue and expenses. So now I am smart. Easy. David Ricardo was one of the founders of economics, and he said a farmer and a manufacturer can no more live without profit than a laborer without wages. And it's so true. We have to make profit. But the thing is, profit is not just profit. We have to make a clear distinction between accounting and economic profit. Nou kyk, julle almal het ons verskillende finansiële state, né? Een vir die bank, een vir die belasting, een vir jou vrou, een vir jou. Dit is nie altyd dieselfde nie. Wins lyk oral verskillend. But the thing is, all those financial statements came down to accounting profit. Accounting profit is basically the difference between your revenue, the physical money that you received, and your expenses, what you have physically paid for. So your accountant come back to you and say, but you made R1 million profit. Great. But did you? We have to consider economic profit. As accounting profit has one big problem, and that is the fact that it does not consider the concept of opportunity cost. So what is opportunity cost? It's the value of an item in its highest alternative use. What does that mean? Wie boer met mielies en speenkalvers? Wie boer met mielies en speenkalvers hier? Niemand nie, daar agter. Voer jou eie mielies vir jou eie speenkalvers. vir jouself. Okay? Nou as jy nou jou speenkalf klaar gevoer het en jy laat slag hom en jy kry R16,000 vir die karkas, hoeveel wins maak jy? Jy voer jou kalf, jy laat slag hom, die abattoir betaal jou R16,000 vir die karkas. Hoeveel wins het jy gemaak? Nie baie nie. Ek gaan vir jou sê, op die stadium maak jy heel waarskynlik 'n verlies as jy geleentheidskoste in ag neem. The fault or the mistake we all made is when we take our own maize, feed it to our own calves, and we sell the fattened calf to the abattoir. We say we get R16,000 for a calf. The input cost for maize was R2,500 a ton. The input cost for a calf was R2,000 throughout the year. We take the 16,000, we subtract the 4,500 and the rest is profit. It's not true. Because you should buy the maize from yourself at R4,500 a ton. You should buy the calf from yourself for R9,000. You should consider the labor that went into feeding that calf. Nothing is for free, and suddenly you make a loss. Yes, the accountant is telling you are making R11,500 profit. You are not. Because you didn't consider the value of the calf and the maize in its highest alternative form. I think I'm going ahead. Here's just a quick example. Two farmers. The first one, both have R1 million revenue. The first one has a lot of expenses. You have to rent the land, you have to rent equipment, you have to appoint laborers, and he is making an accounting profit of R50,000. The other one have his own land, he have his own equipment, he do the work himself, so he's making a profit of R500,000. But he could have rented out his land his land for R500,000 or R200,000. He could have rented out his equipment for R150,000. He could have worked for someone else for R100,000. All of that has a value. And suddenly they are making exactly the same amount of economic profit. But the interesting thing is, what if this producer, what if his land is worth a little bit more? His grazing capacity is a little bit higher. And he could have received not 200,000 but 220,000 rand of income. Then he actually only make 30,000 rand economic profit. He's actually in a worse place than the first one. He would have made more money if he stopped farming. Because on his better land, he's making the same amount of money as the first one. You can still make an accounting profit with zero economic profit. You can make an accounting profit with an economic loss. And that's where we have to start to focus on. So, accounting profit is the illusion of making money. Economic profit is the real deal. You are not making money if you do not make an economic profit. You just think you are making money. You could have been better off if you use certain items in alternative uses. So, we now have to practice this economic theory in the market, and over the last year or what, strange things happened. Ukrainian farmers bought some new hunting rifles. I have to park it in a shed. The Ukraine-Russian war had a major impact on commodity markets worldwide, and we all felt it. In terms of oil prices, especially oil seed prices, we felt it. That's inflation last year. It's not only in South Africa that inflation started to run away. worldwide. What was the reason? Interest rates that was since 2009, 2008 of the economic recession basically on 0%. In some countries, you had to pay the bank to keep your money there. You didn't receive anything in real terms. Okay? So if you do not have to pay interest, it's very easy to purchase more and more stuff because you do not pay any interest on loans. And what happens then? The demand for especially luxury goods and services goes up. Inflation starts to run away. And then we see what we are seeing worldwide as well as in South Africa, that interest rates is going up and up and up, and we haven't seen the end of it yet. That's the oil price with COVID. And yeah, I see yesterday evening I saw it's back to almost $70. Why? America is heading for a recession. Same is happening that happened in 2008 and 2009. You must remember in South Africa, the impact of interest rates was bad. My home loan, after COVID, when the interest rates was reduced, my monthly repayment on my home loan was R8,900 a month. Guess what's it now? Since the interest rate started to increase, R11,500. Okay, so take that amount of money out of the pockets of consumers. But we had it good because our interest rate started on 7% and went to 10.75, I think it's now. You must remember, if you have an interest rate of 7% and it goes up to 8%, it's not a 1% increase in interest. It's a 1 divided by 7% increase in the interest that you pay. So it's much more than a 1% increase. What happened in the USA? Interest rates went from 2 to 3 to 4 to 5%. So the repayments didn't increase with 30 or 40%. They doubled, they tripled. And that is why first world countries is heading into recession. Why banks are playing bankrupt. People cannot repay their loans. Back in South Africa, what happened to our cattle numbers? This is the figures from the Department of Agriculture. So, according to me, we cannot really trust it. Why not? The last livestock census was done in 1996. And after that, we only updated it with indexes. Okay, but we all know the cattle numbers decreased quite a bit, especially due to the drought from 2014 to about 2018. A more accurate figure is the slaughter figures, and there we can see that we have slaughtered before the drought, or with the start of the drought, about 3 million cattle per year. And 2020, 2021, I didn't update the figures for last year. It was below the 2.6 million, so we are slaughtering more than 400,000 calves or animals per year less in South Africa. That means more than 1,000 animals per calendar day. Okay? So supply decreased quite a bit, and if we say that, then we say, but then we should have seen good increases in prices. Let's look at the demand side. The red line is lamb or sheep, green is pig, there's beef, and there's poultry. So what happened back in the 1990s, beef was the most popular meat type, that's kilogram per person per year. And then in 1994, the middle class became quite rich quite quickly, but could also not afford red meat, and the demand for poultry increased quite a bit. There's the total meat consumption, and we see that we are on an increasing path. Why? Not because we eat more poultry, but because beef production is slowly, beef consumption is slowly increasing. Hoekom eet ons meer bees? Hoekom eet ons nou meer bees? Lekkerder. Ja, jy kan net een keer 'n week vol vat, né? Dan moet jy weer terug aan rooi vleis toe. OK, so my beurt was gisteraand gewees. Ek hoop regtig hier is hoender vanmiddag. Last week I was at the week before last week I was at another cattle breed, and then for lunch we had some chicken. But one of my colleagues, but he's from the Department of Art History at the university, so from farming he knows nothing, he had to travel with me. And he was sitting through this lunch, and afterwards he said to me, I'm not going to mention the breed, is this good cattle? I said, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it, medium-sized breed. People don't like the color so much in South Africa, but there's nothing wrong with it. He said, and what are they known for? And I said, no, they pride themselves on a very fertile mother, so on. He said, shit, they can brandy that it tastes just like chicken. So we had quite a laugh. But red meat is becoming more and more popular again. And that's a good sign for us. The problem is, if we look at beef prices, that large decrease in the supply did not really feature. There's 2016. Then we had a very good price increase to 2017, and then again to 2018. And what happened then? 2019 below 2018. 2020 below 2018. 2021 we thought it was going to be a good year, and then COVID came. And that was through the hard lockdown when the restaurants were closed, the highest consumer of A-grade cuts. Then at least the price started to increase there at the end when the economy opens up. 2021, a great year. 2022, even better. And then comes 2023, and we are below the prices of last year again. But most of us do not sell carcasses. This is looking good. What happened to the carcass price? 16, 17, 18, great. 19, 20, no price. 2021, 2022, quite good. Then came this year, and we are below, that's the 2018 price, we are below the 2018 price again. It's the largest difference between wean calf and A-grade carcasses we have seen in a very long time. Why? Because of the economy. There's no demand. Because of the high feed prices. To feed a calf for 4,500 rand per ton for maize, it's not easy. What's the other big problem? Kyk, hou om vir die ligte, hulle brand nog, gelukkig. Net maar daarom. That's the other big problem, load shedding. Right? What's the impact of load shedding? A major impact is bottlenecks. Abattoirs cannot slaughter. Abattoirs have to spend more money on fuel to keep the refrigeration system running. Most of the abattoirs have generators for refrigeration, but not for the slaughter lines. It just becomes too expensive. What happens in the case of the wholesalers and the retailers? They have to generate their own electricity. It's becoming more and more expensive. What's the other big problem? How many abattoirs have closed down the last 2 years? How many abattoirs have closed down the last 5 years? Kom mense, dis die mense wat julle produkte koop. Julle moet weet. Hoeveel abattoirs het toegemaak die laaste 5 jaar? 30. In die laaste jaar 8. Begin van die jaar af 2. waarvan een van hulle 2000 skaap per dag geslag het. Why are abattoirs closing down? There's no price for the 5th quarter. So what does abattoirs now have to do? Where the abattoir always sold the carcass for exactly the same price he bought it for and made his money from the 5th quarter, they now have to increase the profit margin. So abattoirs are not making money from the 5th quarter anymore. That profit margin is between 2 and 4 rand per kilogram. Otherwise they have to close down. What happens if they close down? You or the feedlot, most feedlots have their own abattoirs, but especially in the sheep industry where more farmers slaughter direct, you have to transport your animals over a longer way. It costs you more money. So the final margin on the shelf price has also increased with a lot, because all these factors makes that a margin cannot stay the same. And we are going to see even lower prices. There's no demand in front. We talked about it, just the yellow maize price, what it did over the last couple of years. Then there's a lot of other factors, you cannot really see it here. But you have to operate in an environment where foot and mouth is with us, where we have farm murders, where we have really good rain seasons the last 2 years and pests and diseases are running around like wildfires. We have to talk about adverse weather. We receive too much rain. How long is it going to last? When is the next drought? And we have to be economically sustainable through all of this. And then the thing that we usually think about last is your microeconomy. So what inflation? A package of ground beef costs the same as it did last month. That's what all producers are doing. Coke is no longer 500, it's now a 440 at the same price. Coke Zero is still 500, what's the difference? Sugar tax. Okay, just for interest sake. But if you forget about your farm and your business, and if you look at your household, how does the economy of your household looks like? How does your debt levels look like? Your living cost? If it's going to get tough, what can you change? What about your income? Are you only reliant on income from the farm, or do you have other sources as well? Okay, so let's look at the practice. What can we do to make profit? Because a business without a path to profit isn't a business, it's a hobby. So do you have a hobby or a business? 3 things you as producer can change. Remember, we are price takers in terms of inputs as well as outputs. You can do nothing about that. You can only control 3 things. The first one is opportunity cost. We will have to start to look at the value of an item if you use it somewhere else. I will give some examples now. The second one is the concept of marginality. Marginal means extra. What is the marginal, the extra cost to produce 1 extra unit of output? We'll give some examples now. We cannot look at total income and total cost. We cannot make money that way. Output planning. Do I still produce what the market wants? And what does the market want? The first thing is opportunity cost, and there's a lot of examples. If you make little money or no money on your calf, do you feed it or do you sell it? Where do you get the most money? If you take into the fact that you have to use market prices to feed it, not input cost, market prices. Should you buy more cattle or land, or should you use that money for other investments? Interesting thing is, do you know about retail bonds that you purchase from the government? What was the retail bond fixed interest rate in November? If you have extra money and you purchase some retail bonds. Take a guess. Fixed for 5 years. Yearly interest rate. 11.5%. Now if you get 11.5% on your money, it doubles in 5 years. We have to start to look at other things if farming do not make enough money. Land for own production versus land for rental income. Unfortunately, some of us is not good farmers. And the thing is, you are not a good neighbor if you encourage your neighbor that is not a good farmer to stay in his farm. And we all want to be nice people. And around the braaivleis fire, we said to him, no, don't worry, it will get better, just do this and that. But maybe he will be better off if you rent out his land. Your work on the farm versus alternative work. There's a lot of farmers that is lawyers and doctors and other things. If it goes bad on a farm, maybe you should start up a practice again. Maybe you should do some consultation work. If you do not make profit on your farm, what is your value in its highest alternative position? If you can earn a salary of 50,000 rand a month and you have to pay someone else to look after the farm 20,000 rand, something that you can consider. What's your value? 10 bulls for breeding, 1 bull for AI versus semen straws. If we are talking about stud farming, it's quite difficult. But how many bulls do we still need? Especially if you consider all the risk that comes with purchasing animals, with keeping bulls, with breaking fences. Do you still need 5 or do you need 1 to put with the cows after AI? Holding back replacement heifers, buying pregnant heifers, contract heifer growing. What should you do? One example on opportunity cost. Do background their calves. Steek op julle hande man. Wie doen backgrounding? Net 1, 2. Maak jy geld met backgrounding? Glad nie. Dit beloof ek jou. Hoekom nie? Because you do not take the opportunity cost of the land into consideration. Recalculate it. You would have made more money if you have rented out that land or if you have farmed that land that you use for backgrounding, if you have used it for calf production. You can rather increase your number of cows. The value of our land is too high to use it for backgrounding. Yes, there's a lot of advantages in terms of animal health, etc. But we have to weigh up the cost and the advantages. Let's look at marginality, the concept of that extra thing. So, who of you are reps? Molatek. What does a rep do? He sells products. So he comes onto your farm and let's say you are a maize farmer and then he want to sell you some fertilizer and he said, yes, we did experiments and if you give 700 kilograms of N, then you will harvest 17 tons of maize per hectare. You will be quite well off. And what do you do then? 17 tons is quite, sounds good. So I give the 700 kilograms because then I will harvest the most. That's not where you make the most money. How often do you do that calculations in terms of feed, in terms of fertilizer, in terms of growth hormones? You have to consider the extra amount that you pay for that product and the extra income that it brings. So So a few years back, we did an experiment with 7 different beef breeds where we feed them to see what is the extra amount that I pay every week for feed and labor, and what is the amount that that animal grow that week. This was the one breed. There's the income. So that is the weight multiplied with the slaughter percentage of the breed, multiplied with the A-grade carcass price every week, and that is the cost, the amount of feed that an animal consumes. And the longer you feed an animal, the less the income become and the higher the cost. And this specific breed wanted to be fed for 16 weeks to make the most money. Yes, the animal get heavier if you feed it longer, but that extra amount that you pay is then more than the extra income that you get. But then you take another breed and you have to feed it for 27 weeks to make the most money. So hoe lang voer jy jou kalvers? Sê weer? 16 weke, hoekom? Hoekom? Hoe weet jy maak die meeste geld op 16 weke? Weeg jy hulle elke week? We have been on a farm in Scotland where a farmer, all his animals comes from the field, they stand in a feedlot and they are fed on a grow safe system. The system, it's not his but the same every day. Every single day that system determines what an animal consumes and how much weight they have picked up. And you have a computer program that calculates it each and every day for every single animal. And every evening, you go and sit behind this computer and you say, these animals are now at the optimal economic position, and the next day you take them to the auction. Because if you feed him longer, he's going to lose money.
What is the cost of the grass safe system to get that weight? And how long does it take to recoup that cost?
I can't answer you. I have no idea what it costs, but for him it's working. But it's the same as any other technology. You will have an initial investment, but somewhere you will have to make it up. We have installed a grow safe system at a university. It's not a very big one, but I have no idea what it have costed. But it doesn't have to be with a grow safe system. On your breed, you have to determine what its growth curve is, and then you can determine how long you should feed it at different feed costs. Yes, there's a lot of variation in a breed, but then you still have an idea of what you should do. Let's talk about output planning. I'm almost done. That's the other thing that you have to consider. The first thing is, what do you produce? A wean calf, a long weaner, an ox, depends on your situation. When do you produce? We all tend to calf in August, September, because that's how we always did it. But the rain is coming later and later. Shouldn't you maybe calf in November? What will the influence be? The biggest thing is, if you calf in November, then you also do not have to sell your calves in April and March. In April and May. You sell them when the winter price have started to increase again. A little bit of winter on your farm, or the calves is a little part of the winter on your farm, but maybe it makes sense. Who do you produce for? For a feedlot? For an abattoir? What does that feedlot want? What is your relationship with the feedlot? We just published a paper a month or two ago where we did an experiment where we have contacted 89 commercial beef feedlots in South Africa and 470 farmers, and we asked them, the farmers, will you be willing to health precondition a weaned calf, so to give him a certain health protocols 2 weeks before you wean them, before they go to the abattoir, to increase the immunity of the calf. And we asked the abattoirs, will you be willing to pay more for these calves? And the amount that a farmer is willing to take to do this is less than the amount a feedlot is willing to pay for a calf that has already a better immunity system. What's the catch? The feedlot wants proof. And the only proof that they will accept is a full traceability system. They do not trust veterinarian certificates. Interesting, but true. But they are willing to pay for it. Do you produce what I want? And then the last thing that I want to add is the concept of value adding. We all want to be involved in the value chain. We want more for our product. 40% of the consumer's rand is not good enough. So we want to get involved in the feedlot and the abattoir and the retail to get a higher percentage of that share. It's not so easy, as those people are not always making money. One part of value adding that we forget about is that last one. Coordination. Coördinatie. What does it mean? It means to work together. It's where groups of farmers are working together to get better prices on inputs as well as outputs. I know a farmer, he was a strawberry farmer in the Limpopo province, and there have only been 2 of them. And they went to the fresh produce market every week, and he was here with his strawberries, or his strawberries was on this pallets here, and the other guys was just there. And then they started, or the market played the 2 off against one another. It's exactly the same product, strawberries. And then they decided to sell their products under the same name, so they take away the competition. And the first fresh produce market, the first day they did that, now there's only one supplier. What happened to the price? 60%, 60, higher than in the past. By working together. Something that we have to consider. There's a lot of farmer groups that work together in terms of animal health products. Do not get it through the co-op. You create an account with OBP and you can order it directly from them. Lower cost. How can we work together to get things cheaper? Planning is bringing the future into the present so that you can do something about it now. We have to start to plan, but if we look at the future, the question is, what's going to happen? And I have no idea because I do not have a crystal ball. But we are all talking about that we want to go back to normal, especially after COVID. And this is as normal as we can be. But the economy is not normal, the market is not normal. So then we start to talk, but this is the new normal. But what's a new normal? And is it almost normal to sit here without mask while they are talking that COVID is on the rise again? In Bloemfontein, in the schools, we had quite a lot of COVID cases now, where children is getting quite ill. The thing is, there's no such thing as normal. What is normal? The only thing that we can grab is the reality of a situation, and then we can plan. In Italy, there's an old folk tale where they tell that the farmer was very highly in debt with a loan shark. And this loan shark was a very ugly, and I mean physically ugly, looked like me, old man that wasn't very nice. And he let a farmer know that you have to repay your debt tomorrow. But a farmer cannot do it. There's no way. And he went to see the loan shark, but he took his daughter with him. And the loan shark said to him, all right, I understand that you cannot repay, so I will make you a deal. I will write off your debt, but then I take your daughter. And he said, I'm sorry, but I cannot do it. I cannot give my daughter to you. And he said, yeah, okay, I understand. Difficult decision, let me make it a bit easier. We are standing on this little path of black and white stones. I'm going to pick up 2 stones, put it in a pocket. 1 black, 1 white. Your daughter will draw, and if she draws the white stone, you can keep her, and I will write off your debt. If she draws the black stone, I'm going to take her, but I will also write off your debt. Nothing will be normal from now on. He will be without debt, but there's a 50% chance that he will lose his daughter. But he do not have another option. And this guy bent down and he picked up 2 stones and he threw it in a bag. But the daughter saw that they have picked up 2 black stones. And she know that nothing will be normal again. There's no way that she can draw a white stone out of a bag with 2 black stones. But because she knew the reality of the situation, she could make some plans. So she put her hand into the bag, she picked one of the stones, and when she took it out, she accidentally dropped it on this path. And she said to him, I'm sorry, I'm so clumsy. But if you want to know which stone I have drawn, just look which one is left. If we stick to the reality of the situation we are in now, we can plan for it. Nothing will ever be normal again. But we have some market indicators. We know what's going to happen. So plan for it. Bring the future closer so that you can make plans for it now. Thanks.